Welcome back, Sleepers of the Sands, to another Solari-packed weekend of deep desert resource and blueprint gathering, brought to you today by the great Shai-Hulud and the vast cyclical power of the mighty Coriolis Storm. And boy, do we have a scorching hot map ready for us to explore. But first, I want to send my gratitude out to all of you supporters out there making this weekly video possible. You are the true stars here, and I couldn't do this without all of your likes, subscribes, and shares each week. Keep up the good work, and let's dive into the map. And boy, do we have an extremely crowded and high populated island map this week. If you look inside of the E and D rows, you can pretty much see that there is a metric crap ton of real estate, not only just basic real estate, but we are talking about big islands out here that we can be setting up on. Islands here in the D, D3, D1 areas. E4 is going to be a big area. Look at this out here, D5 through D6, all big. We got some small ones to get us up on the border on E6. E7, a massive dual island set there that you can jump into. Basically, if you look across the board, there should be no reason for people to complain about finding a chunk of land to set up to be getting out here and doing stuff inside of the deep desert this week. Now, for all of you enthusiasts that are loving to hit these medium spice fields with your sand crawler out in the deep desert and trying to stay safe away from that PvP, we can see that it is more or less the same every week when it comes down to it. But this week we are seeing a very large abundance of stuff kicking up here into the west side of the map, starting in E2 and D2 and spreading across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 possibilities for medium spice fields. This means that if you are really just trying to find yourself in a situation where you can get to those medium spice fields quickly without wasting a lot of fuel with your carrier ornithopter, you are going to want to be setting up somewhere around E5 all the way into D2. So you got a lot of real estate once again, as we've already mentioned, but for the most part, this is the side of the map where you're going to be finding the most spice fields. Now, keeping that in mind, in the past, I have found that when spice fields start getting this clumped up and you get multiple medium spice fields, the worm aggro does come out a little bit easier, as you're always having a roaming worm pop up into those sand dunes. So keep that in mind. You might be having to lift off to de-aggro from that worm a lot this week, but this is where the massive amount of medium spice fields are sitting. And moving on to the flip side, for the people with the more dangerous side of life in their grips, you can find that we have 6 recorded spice fields. Now, the past few weeks, we have been missing a few of the spice fields on this guide. However, I do not believe we are missing them this week. I believe these are the 6 spice fields that you are going to find out here in the deep desert this week. I do not believe there will be another one pop up. I've never seen more than 6 out here. However, you can see that they are pretty evenly distributed across the entirety of that PvP zone. So keeping in mind where everything is, and when you have 6 fields, it's going to be kind of tricky to pick the right location, because once again, these things can only really pop up one at a time. And so sometimes you get multiples in one area, like last week G1 was popping up a lot. However, the G5 just like came up one time over the entirety of the week. So it's going to be hard to kind of determine exactly where you should be setting up for the spice, and pretty much your odds are even across the board. Which brings us into the POIs, which could be a game changer more or less for where exactly you want to be setting up in your bases early on, so that you can beat people to the best location to have access to all of these things. We have 2 very large caves sitting out here in the H row, H5 and H2. So once again, they're giving us 2 caves. That's great, because that's the only place to get the pin cushion, and you know, they don't drop that often. So getting out there and hitting these H2, H5 a lot is going to be a big help. Now, the other one that's rather easy to run solo is going to be G7. I do not have the information at this point on which shipwreck that is, but just pay attention, as there will be a video, which will be linked here, that is dealing with the type of shipwrecks that are out there in the deep desert. It gets posted a little bit later than this video. However, if you're interested in knowing which ones to be running this week, make sure that you tune in, click on that link above, because that will help you understand how to get through these things quickly without having to find much resistance against the NPCs and hopefully avoid those PvP situations. Now, there's also 2 wrecked ships down here in B7 and another one sitting on the border of C3, B3. These are very close to that A row. They could be quite dangerous to be jumping into because there are people who could be flying back and forth and might be checking out. So make sure you're not leaving your ornithopter on top or out so that people can see that you're inside running these. And once again, there will be a report coming out very soon that will be telling you exactly what are in these ships or which ships there are there to run. Now, in terms of group activity, we are looking pretty evenly balanced with 2 Imperial testing stations in the PvP, and we'll have 2 Imperial testing stations that are jumping down here in the PvE section. Once again, you can run these things solo, but I always find them to be a waste of time solo because it's literally like an hour of your life to burn through these things just to get access to 1 chest. So make sure that you're getting some friends together and running these things as often as possible, because once again, this is where you're going to be finding that lasgun blueprint that everyone is dying for at this point because it's just never dropping. So make sure you're jumping out here into these Imperial testing stations with friends and trying to run them as often as possible. And keeping in mind, there are Aerothite crystals running in G5 and E9 caves. So if you're the type of person who likes to process cobalt paste out there in the deep desert, you also have these 2 options to run around with as well. And taking a quick gab at the large resource deposits that are on the map this week, they are pretty much split east-west right down the middle of the map. You can see that we got the titanium floating over here on the west side, and we got the stravinium on the east side. So depending on what you need, and if you use your carry ornithopter to carry over your buggy to grab that stuff, just think about left or right side of the map and where it will be most easiest for you to access. Now, overall, in my opinion, the very best place for you to be setting up on the map this week is pretty clear. It is dead smack D4, E4 to E6, D6, right jam smack in the middle. The reason why I'm throwing this out there is everything on the map this week can be accessed from that central area, and that's just going to make it easier for you to get out there, reach the resources, and bring them back without using too much effort, energy, and fuel to do so. Now, there's nothing wrong with setting up on the east or the west side, but remember, when it comes to spice deposits, you might find that these spice deposits are not going off at all, and that's going to force you to have to fly all the way over into the other side of the course, and vice versa. These could not be working as well, which means you're going to have to fly over there. You just cannot rely on the spice fields to be popping. Sometimes we get these things on the map, they don't pop at all. So the best case scenario is literally just setting up jam smack in the middle and hoping that you can make it to these resources in the quickest fashion that you can find. On top of that, all of the POIs are right here close to the middle, as well as reaching the titanium and stravinium. It's going to be easiest for you just to reach out if you're going for both of them, trying to make that for all of your in-game items. And of course, you also are sitting right on top of 1 PvE lab. Once again, I usually don't even run those things, but then again, you also have access to both of the final large shipwrecks that are out there floating around. So definitely, if you are trying to rush to get the best areas for setting up your bases, jump out here into the center of the map ASAP. Do not let people beat you out there, because otherwise you might find very long trips trying to get all the resources that are out there on the map, when you could just literally cut them in half and run them from the middle. And as always, if you are new to the game or have not taken time to step out into the deep desert, please make sure that you're jumping out there. If you have an ornithopter, you should be coming at least to the A row every single week, making sure that you are running the Imperial testing stations. This is 180 free intel points. Most of the time, these mobs are dead because people are running them most of the days. They are PvE. No one can hurt you, destroy your ship, or do anything bad to you. The worst case scenario scenario is you run in there and you might find a room which you cannot handle full of NPCs, but then again, you're parked right outside. You can just run right back in and you can collect the stuff that you dropped and kill those NPCs, as they usually maintain the damage once you've started attacking them. Please make sure that you are jumping out here and at least trying to hit the A row for these intel points from the labs. Not only that, you're getting the blueprints, and it's really good for the progress of you and the game. And now, just in case you don't know exactly what you should be looting from these POIs, starting with the down ships, you have the highest rated chance to get some of the best weapons in the game, like the perforator, the pulse knife and sword, the shell buster, and the Regis disruptor pistol, which all come in handy in all situations, as they are all hard-hitting weapons and can definitely change the tide of war. Next, we take a look into the PvP caves, which is the best place to get your pin cushion set. If you're into light armor, the entire 5-piece set can be dropped from the PvP loot caves at a 7% chance. Add on top of that Regis triple shot repeating rifle, which is probably one of the most coveted weapons in the game, and circuit gauntlets as well as X-Core leggings don't really hurt the way to go out there and start digging into these caves either. So make sure that you're jumping out into the caves each week and getting your hands on that stuff as well. Moving down the line of seriousness, we have the large shipwrecks, which are my favorite place to go for my weapons because they usually respawn quite often and you're not randomly searching for the smaller ships. This also has the perforator, the pulse knife, and the pulse sword, as well as a shell buster and that disruptor pistol. The problem is they are dropping at a 7% chance, but the loot pool seems to be rather small. I tend to get my hands on the same thing over and over again, but either way, that Way of the Miser is something that you can collect. It's not a bad handgun either, but I would definitely recommend, if you are going for new weapons, all these large crash ships are great to be jumping into. Next, we have the PvE testing stations, which have quite a bit of stuff to be looting, but the loot pool is rather massive in my opinion, and it is giving you a chance to get that young Sparky MK6 as well as the replica pulse knife and the Holtzman shield, with the chance at the power harness as well. However, the loot table is so massive that it's almost next to impossible to be getting these things unless you're running these PvE labs on repeat. So keep that in mind. They are out there. If you do have a group of people that you can run around with, jump out there and do them regardless, but please keep in mind that your chances of getting those top S tier blueprints from this place are a little bit less than anything else, which doesn't make sense to me because they are actually rather difficult to run. Next, we have that PvP testing station area, which are probably the hardest things to get into and loot stuff from due to the amount of massive waves that you have to fight against. So going about it solo will be hard, but if you have a lot of friends or a group of people on your server that you like to run around with, it's not such a difficult task. Here you will find more of the defensive side of the game, as not only will you be able to get the young Sparky MK6, which is the best battery you can find in the game, but you also get that adaptive Holtzman shield, which will keep you safe a lot longer. Add on top of that the power harness, which is probably the best heavy chest piece that you can get into the game, and Hallex picks and the cauterizer are not bad stuff either. And if you are lucky, you can also get your hands on a black market K28 las gun, which will help you eat through ships and people's bases a whole heck of a lot faster. And now it's time for my favorite part of the show, and that is showing my gratitude to all of you wonderful people out there taking time to leave comments below in the video so that the algorithm can help push this thing out to new audiences and get more people excited about the Dune Awakening universe. First off, that is a truly high commendation, John Barron 2320. To hear the words by Lakaifa speaks to the very essence of the unmeasurable gift you have bestowed upon me. And your support, William Morris C10, truly cuts the wasted time in bringing this knowledge to the masses. Much like a guild navigator charts the quickest course, may the sleeper awaken in all of you. Indeed, I'm honored that the video was your welcome back to the waking world. Don Corleone NL, I live to serve like a loyal freeman to their siege. And for those of you that are just joining us, Kariyama Kayoshi, welcome to the fold. May the water of your life flow freely here, and thank you for making this your first stop. Also, and thank you, Kalash Cat, I accept the title of Nerdbird with great pride. If my knowledge is akin to the navigator's foresight, then I am glad to be your number one source for the deepest deep desert intel. To know that my broadcasts make your Monday night something to anticipate in the zone warms the spicy, addled hearts of this host. And to you, Christina Alderson, thank you for being the faithful Chris knife of this community. The gratitude is absolutely mutual. And to everyone else, thank you very much for taking time to leave messages down below. And as always, thank you guys for sharing in on this time with me. Keep your eyes in the skies and have a great day.